What is up, Internet? My name is Randy, and today I'm going to talk about some writing tips. And today I want to cover building your world before your supporting characters and your protagonist. Before we jump in, I would like to tell you guys what I like to write. I like to write horror, fantasy, and adventure stories. Now, building a world is very relevant in these genres. But regardless of the story that you make, every single book has a world in it, be it the town, the neighbor next door, or the globe itself. So why do I tell you guys to create your world before your characters? Well, quite simply, it's from experience. I've been working on the same book for 4 years, and you know what? I have lost so many good characters just because they did not fit after I developed them. I am what you call a gardener writer. I kind of weave stuff as I am pumping out the story, which isn't a bad trait. But one of the downfalls about it is you get these impulses to bring things into your story because you think they're cool for the moment, and then you have to snuff them out immediately because how awkward they are. It took me a while, but now I understand that the world is the most important part of writing any stories. When you're writing a story, you need a world to go on an adventure in. And by understanding your world and what you want in your world will make telling your story so much easier and creating your characters so much more pleasant and more inviting to the story that you are telling. In my opinion, it needs to be done first. It works for me better because I started doing that. I started applying it to short stories, and I even realized how much it presented itself there. My characters had a better sense of direction. They didn't seem like they were fumbling around in the dark anymore, and I got what I wanted out of them. Now, there's a couple cool things you can do if you're someone that loves to write characters like myself. By creating the world first, you open your mind to a number of opportunities of what you can do with the different parts, especially in a fantasy world. Say you don't choose your protagonist first. You develop a world, and you know what you want out of it, but not quite. But there's things that you want to see in it. So what I did is I took ideas and character types that I am thinking about using in my story, and I'm like, this is a cool village. This character, how about I write about a holy knight that's divine and noble to his god, and I write a short story about him growing up in that type of society and lifestyle. Then I could jump over here to the other side of the world where you have this young girl that's been orphaned, perhaps, and she's trying to survive. She's in the slums. This part of the world isn't as nice where that knight came from. Now you got two characters, and when you create a character or a temporary protagonist for your short stories, you could even end up building your supporting cast for your final protagonist when you figure it out. Now I know being a writer, the first draft does not always, it never comes out perfect. And sometimes you can only be a few chapters into your story once you think you've found your characters and picked them out of your world garden and realize, do I really like this character? I mean, that's usually what happens to me when I forget to build the world. But it even happens because we aren't perfect. All writers are challenged by their own mind and what they can do with it and how much further they can take it to the next step. Sometimes we get bored of our protagonists. Now, since we grew a garden of short stories of all of these different people in different parts of the world, we always have different angles and different fruits and vegetables to pick out of our garden to start over. Now, don't go doing this constantly because you'll never get your story done. It runs down to procrastination. And we don't need that. No. Stay the hell away from me, procrastination. That isn't why you do it. Sometimes when you're writing a protagonist, the character ends up not being as fruitful as you thought it would be. A rotten tomato. So you want to throw it away. There's nothing wrong with that. But what you need to do is check yourself before you go through the loopholes again and again and again. So the good thing about the world garden in general is that you have fruits and vegetables to pick from. And if it does happen to where you need to rewrite and remap your characters and maybe get better grasp on different parts of the world, you have that fruitful garden growing and growing and growing, producing more and more and more and more. So what happens to a lot of writers that I have talked to personally is that they'll come up with an idea and they'll shut down their story in 4 chapters because they don't know what they're doing with it. But when you create a world, you always have somewhere to go with it. And if you do the short story thing, like I proposed to you guys, you always have characters to pick from to bring into your story. And another thing about having the garden is if you scrap your characters, you can always plant new seeds in this garden that you've already created. Because the garden is fruitful. The garden is your world. And don't let anybody tell you to throw it away. Ever. Because it is from that garden that you will create your dream story and the way you want your book to come out as. Try writing a short story in 3 different angles of your world that you want to achieve. In 3 different places. Now, in order for this exercise to work to the fullest, adapt these characters to the fantasy world or world that you are creating. And only that. Do this exercise, see where it takes you, and if it works out for you, let me know in the comments. And remember, always put more seeds in your garden when you don't want to give up on your world. But remember the world your characters are coming from. Talk to you guys later. This is Regraff signing out. See you next time.